Okay, hello YouTube. Today's video is about sexual assault and rape, and I'm going to explain it to you like a Republican or a conservative would. So that means that if a woman drinks too much, she should have been more responsible. If she's wearing a short dress, she was asking for it. If she walked home alone at night, she should have taken precautions. If a child is molested by a priest, it's just a few bad apples. But if it's a trans woman who wants to use the bathroom that matches her gender identity, we better do something about this right now before men harm women. And this is what is so bizarre about bathroom bills and things like what the North Carolina General Assembly did last week. So I imagine that people who watch my channel, probably it's impossible for them to miss the fact that because the city of Charlotte decided to let trans people use the bathroom that matches their identity, the North Carolina General Assembly had to call a special session to propose and pass a piece of legislation basically banning trans people who don't get a birth certificate changed. And this is important to note because in order for most trans people to get their birth certificates changed, they generally have to have surgery, particularly in the state of North Carolina. Now, there are ways around this where sometimes a letter from a doctor that states your transition is complete can sometimes suffice, where they're not going to actually pull down your pants and check. But the idea is that the state of North Carolina is now making people go through this huge hoop in order to use the bathroom because they say that this will protect women and children who they are not interested in protecting in kind of most of the rest of the world. But rather than talk about kind of that sort of bizarre hypocrisy that people aren't calling out or are calling out, rather than talk about that, rather than talk about the fact that in any state or city or kind of municipality where trans people can use the bathroom that matches their identity, that there's never been any sort of sexual assault crime committed in a bathroom or a locker room by a trans person or even somebody pretending to be trans, I want to talk about the fact that basically the Republicans seem to think that rape and sexual assault are a matter of opportunity, in that if a law allows trans people into the bathroom that matches their gender identity, exploitative people, regardless of whether or not they're trans, will then use this law to commit other crimes, which doesn't make sense logically, but the argument that they're making is basically that the only reason that men aren't committing more sexual assault or more rape is because they're not allowed into the bathroom. While sexual assault and rape does happen in the bathroom, whether that's a single-sex facility or men actually just walking into the women's restroom and never saying anything about gender identity, rape and sexual assault are generally about power. They're generally also committed by people who already know the victim, but the idea that this is just about opportunity rather than about a problem with our culture, a problem with our society, a problem with the language that we use when we describe women as, sort of knowing victims, women as culpable in their own sexual assault and rape because they weren't taking these other precautions. That's the really fucked up part about this, is that the Republicans are saying that they want to keep women safe, they want to keep children safe, and the only way they can think of to do this is to address a problem that doesn't exist, rather than address this kind of language that you see throughout Republican discourse. And it is vulgar, it's violent, and it's unproductive. And it's just more of their war on women, and it's something that we have to stop. So, forgetting all these other things going on with it, Republicans don't understand what they're talking about when it comes to rape and sexual assault. So why should we trust them now? And the answer is, we shouldn't.